The coastal town of Makako was a place the world had forgotten. Its rusted rooftops leaned against each other like tired elders whispering old secrets. The sound of hammering from the mechanic yard echoed every morning, followed by the steady hum of engines coughing back to life. In the middle of it all was Tunde Alade, a humble mechanic whose hands were always blackened with grease and hope. He lived in a shack behind his workshop, made of corrugated metal and fading paint that read Tunde Repairs, honest work, fair price. He had no family, no wife, no children, just a company of machines that never talked back. But his heart was warm. People in town said Tunde was too kind for his own good, the kind of man who fixed a neighbor's generator even if they couldn't pay. One rainy evening, as thunder cracked over the sea, Tunde heard soft knocks on his wooden door. When he opened it, a thin girl stood there, soaked to the bone, clutching a torn bag. Her name was Amora, a 10-year-old orphan whose parents had died in a fire months earlier. She had been sleeping in the market stalls, eating leftover fruit and bread. Tunde looked down at a trembling frame, then at the half bowl of beans left on his table. Without hesitation, he handed it to her. "Eat," he said softly. "You can sleep inside. The rain's too cruel tonight." That moment, small and quiet, changed both their lives. In the flickering lamplight, Amora ate slowly, tears mixing with rainwater on her cheeks. And for the first time in a long while, Tunde smiled, because kindness had found its way back to his lonely home. Days turned into weeks, and Tunde and Amora fell into rhythm. Every morning, the smell of burning oil filled the air while Amora swept the floor, fetched water, and handed him wrenches. She was quick to learn. Tunde noticed how her eyes followed every move he made, the way she memorized which nut fit where, how she could predict when he needed a 14mm spanner before he even asked. He began teaching her the basics of mechanics. "Engines are like people," he told her. "If you listen carefully, you will hear what's wrong." She nodded, fascinated by how his mind worked. At lunchtime, they shared a single plate, sometimes beans, sometimes yam, always laughter. He called her Engineer Mora, even though her hands barely reached the top of the car bonnet. But not everyone admired their bond. The neighbors gossiped. "He's wasting his time teaching a girl to fix cars," one man sneered. "She'll end up married off before she even learns what a piston is." Tunde ignored them. "A mind that learns is never poor," he whispered to Amora that night as they watched lightning dance across the sea. Amora's respect for him grew deeper. She began saving every small tip customers gave her in a tin box, dreaming that one day she would help him buy real equipment, not the old, second-hand ones he always borrowed. Their bond was more than father and daughter. It was soul deep, forged in hunger, love, and shared struggle. It was a humid night when tragedy struck. The generator outside the shop sputtered, sparked, and caught fire. The flames spread fast, licking through the wooden walls before they could fetch water. Tunde ran inside to save his most prized tool chest, but the smoke was too thick. Amora screamed, dragging the bucket again and again, but it was useless. Within minutes, the fire devoured everything, their tools, their home, their clothes, their little savings. When dawn came, the workshop was a blackened skeleton of metal and ash. Amora knelt in the date, crying uncontrollably. "Baba Tunde, everything's gone." Tunde placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice steady though his eyes burned with loss. "Not everything, my child. We still have our hands, and they can build again." That day, he showed her resilience. He scavenged through the ashes, finding broken bolts, half-melted wrenches, and burnt pliers. "We'll start from here," he said. "We fix what we can, even if it's just hope." The townspeople pitied them but offered no help. Poverty was contagious in Makako. People were too afraid to catch it. But Tunde never complained. And Amora, seeing his faith, made a silent vow. "One day, I'll rebuild everything he lost." A few months later, opportunity came in disguise. A school teacher's bicycle chain snapped near the workshop. Tunde was bedridden with a cough, so Amora offered to fix it. The teacher laughed. "A girl? You'll make it worse." Ignoring him, she turned the bike upside down, adjusted the chain tension, greased the joints, and tightened the bolts. Within minutes, the bicycle spun smoothly. The teacher stood stunned. "You did this?" She nodded, her face bright with pride. He handed her 200 Nigerian nairas, her first earned money. That afternoon, she cooked beans and shared it with Tunde. "See, Baba, we can still fix things." Word spread fast. Soon, people came from nearby villages, curious about the mechanic girl who fixes anything. Amora began saving her earnings, writing Dream Fund on the tin box. She wanted to rebuild Tunde's workshop with solid iron walls, not wood. It was a secret mission, one she believed would make her mentor proud. One evening, she caught Tunde watching her quietly. "You remind me of someone," he said. "Who?" she asked. "A version of me that never gave up." But fate was cruel once more. Tunde's cough worsened into something darker, a sickness that stole his strength day by day. The clinic demanded money they didn't have. Amora begged neighbors, repaired bicycles for free, and sold her save coins. But it wasn't enough. On his final night, the rain returned, beating softly on the tin roof. Amora sat beside his bed, holding his rough, oil-stained hand. His voice came faintly. "Don't stop fixing things, Amora. Not engines, not dreams, not hearts." When morning came, the workshop was silent. Tunde was gone. Amora sat for hours, staring at his empty chair, the one that creaked whenever he laughed. She buried him behind the old mango tree near the workshop ruins, marking the grave with his favorite wrench. As she walked away, she whispered, "You gave me everything. I'll make you proud." That night, under the flicker of a dying lantern, she packed her few belongings, the wrench, the tin box, and a dream too big for Makako. The next morning, she boarded a bus heading to Lagos, unaware that destiny was waiting, engines of fate already turning. The bus that carried Amora to Lagos coughed smoke the whole way, as if warning her that the city ahead wasn't for the faint-hearted. When she arrived at Ojalegba, she was swallowed by noise, shouting traders, roaring engines, and the stench of sweat, fuel, and survival. She clutched her small bag, inside it Tunde's wrench, a few coins, and her worn-out shoes. The city was bigger than anything she'd imagined, fast, heartless, and cruelly indifferent. But Amora was not afraid. She had already faced fire, hunger, and death. Her first nights were spent sleeping under a bridge, beside other homeless workers. By day, she wandered from workshop to workshop, offering to clean or repair for food. Most laughed at her. Some called her names. One mechanic shouted, "We need real men here, not skinny girls pretending." Still, she didn't give up. One morning, she stopped in front of Ganyu's auto yard, one of the busiest in Mushin. When she offered to work for free, the owner, a stout man with suspicion in his eyes, laughed. "You'll last 2 days." She lasted years. Under Ganyu's watch, Amora cleaned, learned, and watched every repair. She worked from dawn till night, ate only when allowed, and never complained. Her hands toughened, her mind sharpened. And every night, before sleeping under her workbench, she whispered, "I'm still fixing things, Baba Tunde." Months turned into years. Amora became the soul of the workshop. She fixed engines others gave up on, and customers started asking for her by name. "Where's that small girl with the magic hands?" Even Ganyu began to rely on her. He would boast, "My girl can fix a Range Rover faster than a man." She'd smile shyly, saying, "It's not magic, Olga, it's just love and patience." Her reputation spread through Mushin. She became Madam Fix-It. But despite her growing fame, she stayed humble, always helping others, sharing her lunch with beggars and apprentices. Then one day, a well-dressed man in a designer suit arrived with his luxury car. Everyone avoided touching it. Too expensive, too risky. But Amora stepped forward, diagnosed the issue in minutes, and repaired it before sunset. The man watched her closely. "Who taught you all this?" he asked. She wiped her hands and smiled softly. "A poor mechanic who shared his meals with an orphan." The man's eyes softened. He paid her triple and left a business card. "If you ever want to grow beyond this place, call me." That night, Amora stared at the card. For the first time, she felt something stir deep inside, the whisper of destiny shifting gears. But not everyone celebrated her rise. The more customers requested her, the more her boss, Ganyu, grew bitter. He began to feel invisible, a man outshone by a girl he once pitied. One day, he accused her of stealing clients. When she tried to explain, he shouted before everyone, calling her ungrateful, useless, and cursed. Then he threw her toolbox into the street and locked the gate. Amora stood in the rain, her bag soaked, her heart shattered. She had no place to go. But crying wouldn't fix anything. Tunde had taught her that. She picked up her scattered tools, found a broken umbrella, and set up by the roadside. There, under the dripping rain, she began fixing broken generators, fans, and tricycles. She called her space Amora Repairs. She wrote on a piece of cardboard, "We fix everything, except lies." At first, people mocked her, but when she repaired an Okada's dead engine in 10 minutes, word spread. She began earning again, slowly, quietly, with dignity. That night, as she counted her first day's earnings, 3,200 Nigerian nairas, she whispered, "Thank you, Baba. Even betrayal builds something if your hands are clean." The rainy season came hard that year. Many roads were flooded, and most roadside mechanics stayed home. But Amora kept working under her umbrella, her clothes soaked, her spirit unbroken. One gloomy afternoon, a sleek black Range Rover stopped near her. The driver, a wealthy man in his 50s, stepped out angrily. His car had stalled in the flood. Everyone stared, whispering, "That's Mr. Jiroji, the real estate tycoon." No one dared approach. But Amora, ignoring her soaked clothes, waded through the water and asked, "Sir, can I check your car?" He raised an eyebrow. "You? A young lady?" "So," she said with quiet confidence, "if I can't fix it, you don't pay." Intrigued, he agreed. Within minutes, she diagnosed the problem, a flooded sensor, and fixed it. The car roared back to life. Jiroji was stunned. "How much?" he asked. She hesitated. "Anything you think it's worth." He handed her 50,000 Nigerian nairas. Amora's hands trembled. It was more money than she'd ever seen. "You're talented," he said. "Don't stay here forever. Build something." Those words sank deep. That night, she used part of the money to rent a small container space and painted a new sign. Amora Auto Tech, fixing engines, building dreams. Business boomed. Amora's honesty drew people from all corners of Lagos. Taxi drivers, businessmen, even police officers trusted her workshop. Her old friends, the street boys and hawkers, worked as her assistants. Every morning, she prayed before touching any car. Every evening, she shared meals with her workers, beans and yam, just like she used to share with Tunde. When reporters asked why she trained so many youths for free, she said simply, "Because someone once fed me when I had nothing." Her story spread quietly through blogs and social media. People loved the image of a young woman, hands covered in grease, building hope out of metal and sweat. Then one day, a journalist visited her workshop. After listening to her journey, he said, "You're not just fixing engines, Amora, you're fixing lives." He published an article titled, "From Orphan to Engineer, the Woman Changing Lagos, One Bolt at a Time." Within days, the internet exploded. Her name went viral. She received phone calls from NGOs, business owners, and even television stations. Amora didn't realize it yet, but this was a spark that would set the next chapter of her destiny ablaze. The headline hit like a lightning bolt across the internet. "From Orphan to Engineer, the woman fixing Lagos with her hands." It was written by a young blogger named Tommy Odu, who stumbled upon Amora's story while fixing her own car. She'd been captivated not just by Amora's skill, but her humility, the way she shared food with her apprentices after long, greasy days. Within 48 hours, the post went viral. Instagram reels, Twitter threads, and Facebook pages buzzed with her name. People started calling her Nigeria's Iron Angel. News stations arrived with cameras and microphones. Amora stood shyly in her overalls, trying to explain that she wasn't a celebrity, just a mechanic doing honest work. But her humility only made people love her more. Then came the biggest surprise. A luxury car brand, Dynatech Motors, reached out. They wanted to partner with her for a training initiative for underprivileged youths. At the meeting, Amora wore her only clean dress and Tunde's old wristwatch. She spoke from her heart. If we fix engines, we fix movement. But if we fix people, we fix nations. The executives fell silent. Then the chairman said, "Let's make history." By the end of that week, Amora Autotech became the face of Dynatech's Empower Through Skill campaign. Her face appeared on billboards, her smile, her grease-stained hands, her slogan, "We fix, we build, we rise." With fame came wealth, more than she ever imagined. Money flowed from partnerships, speaking events, and training contracts. But with it came vultures, opportunists, fake investors, and people who wanted her name more than her mission. One foreign investor offered her 500 million Nigerian nairas to sell her brand outright. "You will be rich beyond measure," he said. "Just sign here and rest." Amora hesitated. Her workshop had grown into 3 branches. Her workers looked up to her. Selling would mean losing control of everything she'd built. That night, she sat alone in her office, staring at Tunde's wrench displayed on the wall. She remembered his words, "Don't fix for money, fix for purpose." She declined the offer. The investor laughed in disbelief. "You'll regret this," he warned. But she didn't. Instead, she poured that same energy into expanding her business, building more centers, employing more youths, especially orphans. Her decision shocked Lagos. People expected greed, but she chose growth. She turned down quick wealth for long-term legacy. In an interview, she said, "If you trade your purpose for comfort, you've sold your soul cheap." The quote went viral, printed on shirts, posters, and even murals. Amora wasn't just a mechanic anymore. She was becoming a movement. By her 30th birthday, AM Motors Limited had been born, Africa's first locally owned auto manufacturing company run by a woman. Her innovation? Affordable, fuel-efficient mini vehicles designed for local transporters and farmers. Her idea came from her days watching people push broken tricycles uphill. "Machines should serve people, not the other way around," she said. Her company started small, a rented warehouse, 15 young engineers, and hope. Within 2 years, her vehicles hit the market. The response was overwhelming. Her first car model, the Tunde One, became a symbol of pride. She named it after her late mentor, engraving beneath the logo, "Born from kindness, built for purpose." International investors came knocking, but this time, Amora called the shots. She demanded fair deals, insisted on hiring locally, and created scholarships for women in mechanical engineering. At the launch event, wearing a white jumpsuit stained with oil, she stood before the press and said, "We don't just build cars, we build chances." The crowd erupted. Her story became the new face of African resilience, proof that you could start with nothing but end up building engines of change. After years of headlines, awards, and travel, Amora decided it was time to go home. She returned to Makako, the same town where she once begged for food, now arriving in a convoy of her own cars. The townspeople ran to see her. Some cried, some knelt, some couldn't even believe it was her. She walked slowly to the old ruins of Tunde's workshop, now just rust and weeds. There, she knelt down and placed fresh white lilies on the ground. In her hands was Tunde's old wrench. "You didn't just fix engines," she whispered tearfully. "You fixed me." That day, she announced the construction of Tunde Technical Academy, a free vocational school for orphans and poor youth. She pledged millions to build classrooms, dorms, and workshops. When the academy opened months later, she gave the first speech herself. A man once shared his last meal with me. That single act built everything you see today. So never underestimate kindness. It's a blueprint of greatness. The speech went viral nationwide. Presidents, governors, and global organizations praised her initiative. But Amora didn't seek applause. She only wanted to make sure Tunde's name lived forever. The school's motto read, "Hands that serve build futures." Within a few years, Amora's name became synonymous with hope. She appeared on CNN, BBC, and TED Talks, speaking about innovation, poverty, and resilience. But beyond the fame, what truly mattered to her was impact. At every award ceremony, She spoke about street kids, women in trades, and the power of mentorship. She built branches of her academy in 5 states. Her cars began exporting to neighboring countries. When Forbes listed her among Africa's youngest billionaires, she only smiled. "My first fortune was a shared bowl of beans," she told reporters. "Everything after that was just grace." Her success inspired thousands of young Africans. Schools began teaching her story. Documentaries were made about her journey from the gutters of Makako to the boardrooms of the world. But amid all the fame, Amora remained the same girl who prayed before she fixed any machine. She still ate at local canteens, still drove herself to work, and still kept that rusty wrench on her desk. When journalists asked her secret, she said, "I just kept fixing things, even when life kept breaking them." And with that, the world finally understood. Her wealth wasn't just money. It was legacy, forged from love and labor. Success had turned Amora into a global name. Cameras followed her everywhere. Journalists quoted her every word, and powerful people sought her attention. Her empire, AM Motors, now had over 5,000 employees across Africa. But with fame came whispers. She's forgotten where she came from, some said. Others claimed she was too powerful for a woman. For a while, she started to believe the hype. She wore designer suits, hosted luxury conferences, and even began ignoring some of her old workers who came for help. One evening, as she drove herself home in her custom Tunde 1 car, she saw a group of children under a bridge eating leftover food. Their laughter hit her harder than any criticism could. She parked, stepped out, and watched. They reminded her of herself. One of the kids looked up and asked, "Auntie, why are you crying?" Amora smiled through tears. "Because I almost forgot how I started." That night, she went back to her office, gathered her staff, and announced a new initiative. "Every Friday, we'll share meals with street children. We fix lives, not just engines." Her humility returned, stronger than ever, and the world saw her not just as a billionaire, but as a woman reborn by grace. The storm came when she least expected it. A multinational rival, Chira Motors, accused her of stealing their patented engine design. They filed a lawsuit worth billions, trying to destroy her company's reputation. The news exploded online. Investors panicked. Critics sneered. She climbed too fast. Now she'll fall. Amora could have bribed her way out. Everyone told her to settle quietly. But she refused. "If truth costs me everything, I'll still pay," she said firmly. The court case dragged for months. Her staff stood by her, even when profits dropped. During one tense hearing, the opposing lawyer mocked her. "You're just a mechanic who got lucky." Amora replied calmly, "Maybe, but luck doesn't build empires. Integrity does." In the end, the evidence proved her innocence. The rival company's claim collapsed. The judge not only cleared her, but ordered compensation for defamation. When asked how she felt, she said, "I didn't win because I fought harder. I won because I stayed honest." She donated half of the compensation to fund legal aid for small business owners, ensuring others wouldn't be bullied as she had been. Her moral victory echoed louder than money ever could. One afternoon, while supervising a project at her academy, Amora was told an old man wanted to see her. She walked into the reception and froze. It was a school teacher whose bicycle she fixed as a child in Makako. Now frail, with shaky hands and dim eyes, he said softly, "My daughter, I heard your voice on the radio. I had to see you before I go." Tears flooded Amora's eyes as she hugged him. "You believed in me when no one did." He smiled weakly. "I didn't know I was blessing a future queen of engines." Amora took him on a tour of the academy. When he saw the training halls and classrooms full of children learning trades, he broke down in tears. He whispered, "You become the teacher now." She later gave him a small house beside the academy and made sure he was cared for until his final days. That reunion reminded her, destiny never forgets gratitude. Every small act of faith becomes a bridge to the future. Despite her global fame, Amora never let go of one tradition. Every Friday, at precisely 1 p.m., she sat with her factory workers. Same food, same table, same laughter. Beans, yam, and palm oil stew. When someone once asked her, "Why eat like this when you can afford anything?" she smiled and said, Because a poor mechanic once shared his last meal with me. That simple scene, the billionaire eating with her workers, went viral. A journalist captured it and titled the article, "The Billionaire with the Heart of a Mechanic." It spread across the world, millions of views, thousands of reposts. People everywhere wept, inspired by her humility. Even her employees said working for her felt like working for a purpose, not a paycheck. And every Friday, when she lifted a spoon of beans, she whispered silently, "This is for you, Babatunde." Years later, Amora stood at the balcony of Tunde Technical Academy, watching the sunset burn gold across the sea, the same coast where her story began. Below her, hundreds of students were fixing engines, welding metals, and laughing. Among them was a young girl named Kimi, barely 10 years old, determined and bright-eyed, just like she once was. Amora walked over, crouched beside her, and asked, "Who taught you to work like that?" The girl smiled. "You did, Ma. You taught all of us." Amora's eyes filled with tears. "Then promise me something. When life give you more, give back more." As the academy's bell rang, she walked to the courtyard where a new statue stood, a life-size bronze of Tunde Alade, holding a wrench with the inscription, "He shared his meal, she shared her world." The crowd applauded as Amora placed fresh flowers at its feet. She looked up to the sky and whispered, "Baba, your kindness built this." The camera pans out, showing the academy glowing under the evening light, children running, laughter echoing, machines humming like a heartbeat of hope. Her voice narrates softly as the screen fades. "If you ever feel small, remember, greatness begins with a shared meal and a willing heart."